Okay. So last day we have covered the access modifier or access specifiers and the static part as well. So today we will start with batch class. Okay. So in batch class,
Sir, before that, I have a little doubt, like
yep.
about this custom metadata part.
Yes,
I
I
have
am
I have
also.
gone through that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have gone through that, but literally, I am able to understand that why and space. What is the specific reason that we need this custom metadata in Apex? Actually,
Yes, sir. I
can
also
you
have
give
the
us?
same question because I thought why don't make just a custom object and all without doing that custom metadata.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just an example will be fine for us to understand
Yeah,
that.
I will. I will. I will. I will. Just give me 1 minute. Uh, okay. So custom metadata or custom settings that is actually required when we do not need to expose, like, custom object is to store customers data, right? But there might be scenarios where we don't need to like there is there probably there is some data which we need to store, but that is not customer data, and that is actually required for our internal configuration to build the application and not for customer. Like, say, I'm giving you one example. Like, there are three batch classes, okay, and I am telling you that this batch class 1, uh, needs to be executed on Monday. Batch class 2 needs to be executed on Tuesday. Batch class 3 needs to be executed on Friday. Okay. And uh, tomorrow, this sequence or these execution might get changed. Like, I can just execute batch 3 in Monday and batch 2 in Friday. Now, if that is the scenario, then somewhere I have to store this data, right? I need to keep this data somewhere, and that the provision of changing that needs to be there. But this is not related to any client. This is not a client data, right? So in that scenario, what I can do, I can create one custom object, or, but if I am creating any custom object, there is always a risk that somebody or somehow somebody is giving access or whatever it is. It will go back, and it will get exposed to end customer, but this data is actually not needed for the customer, right? Also, in Salesforce licenses, in different licenses, there are limitation of custom objects you can create. The maximum number of custom objects you can create, that is limited. So in that scenario as well, this is not something which is required for the customer, which is required for the application configuration or application execution, and that data needs to be stored so that we can change it tomorrow. So in this situation, when this kind of things arise, we store that data in custom metadata or custom settings. Okay, so that we can utilize that data in our coding or configuration, but we don't need to expose that to end user. Any question?
No, sir, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So actually, custom settings, like whenever we are writing any code or configuration, we would not be uh, we would not be using, or we should not be hard coding anything. Okay, so in that situation, whenever I am doing anything, I should store that data within custom metadata. Anyway, let's move back to batch class. So let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
So first thing is that what is batch apex? So there are ways we can schedule something, like say at the end of the year, I just want to uh, do the summation of all the opportunities according to the region. Say in India, I am doing some business, I have implemented Salesforce, I have opportunities, and I have closed opportunities there. Closed opportunities means the business I have won. And at the end of the year, I just want to look into all the summation of these blah 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 blah. I mean to say uh, for different states, I just want to say my closed opportunity summation of the amount of closed opportunities. So what I can do, we can just execute something which is scheduled, which will execute at the end of the year only once in 1 year, that is the end of the year. And it will uh, do the summation depending upon the region field. And in that region, whatever the closed opportunities are, we will sum it up. We can just store that within one object or whatever it is. And then what we can do, that object, the records of that object can be like whoever needs to look into that, they can go and they can just check that for this year, this for this region, this is my total amount of opportunity. This can be done through reports as well, but I am not going into report right now because uh, say this one I just want half yearly or quarterly or this kind of different things. If I have to do, I can put that in report. But say if there is no report which I am looking right now, I just need something which can do this thing for me, and then can show me the records. And the other things might be, like say there is a requirement that whenever there is any opportunity getting created for any region, specific region, I just need to create some task, specific task for that region. Okay, and there is specific configuration for that, and say there is some logic which is related to that which I have to execute, and then I have to create it. So this can be done in two ways. Like whenever the opportunity is getting created at then and there, I can do this. Or the other thing is that I can do something which is scheduled. Like end of the day, that scheduled program will execute and create all these tasks for like whatever region the opportunity is created, whatever the details is, depending on that, it will get created. So these two things are possible. We are trying to build something which will help us in doing it in the second way. That is, it will be scheduled, and at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, or say at the end of the month, or say thrice daily, three times daily, this kind of scheduled program, if I have to execute, the way of doing that is writing a batch class and then schedule that batch class. Okay. So first thing is that writing that batch class and then the scheduling the batch class. Now, one batch class, like till now we have written our classes, and those had specific like the way that I can define the class name. Within that class name I can define my methods and all. Okay, but for batch class there is a specific structure. We don't write anything else but start, execute, and finish, these three methods in one batch class. Okay, batch class, what it does, start is a method where I would write my query. Like when I am doing some operation, it is on some records, right? So on which records I have to work on, that I have to specify in my start method. In start method we will write that query. In execute, whatever results that I am getting, whatever results that I am getting, that will, and the logic I have to write, that I have to write in execute method. So in execute method, it will actually go to that method and execute my logic. And this execute is uh, how this execute is, how many times it will execute. There are specifications of that. I am coming to that later. First, let me complete the last method. That is the finish. Finish means, say my batch job is completed. Now I have to do something. Say I am executing one batch on account, and there are several records, right? So some of them might get updated, some might not get updated because of some error. So my requirement is at the end of the batch, I have to uh, check which records are not updated, and I have to send one email to the system admins. So that part I should do within my finish. I can, if I don't need to do anything, once the batch is executed, once batch execution is completed, we can keep the finish blank in that scenario. But we have to keep this finish method there. So this start, execute, and finish, these three methods at least I have to write in my batch, obviously, that I cannot skip. Okay, that is the structure of a batch. That's how we write the batch. Now the question is, how many times execute method will execute? The base logic is that from my start query, the number of records, whatever the number of records is returned, say 2000 records are returned. Okay. And when we execute a batch class, the calling of a batch class, we can mention how many records it will take as a uh, as batch size. Okay. So what is the meaning of a batch size? That say I have several records, my batch size is 100. That means every time when that batch is executing, at a single glance, it will take 100 records. Say first time it will take first 100 records and execute the logic, whatever logic I have written there for that execute. Okay. And then again it will take the next 100 records, then it will take the next 100 records. It will continue until and unless my all the records, whatever is returned from my start method, is completed. Like how many records, say as I was saying, say there are 2000 records which is returned from my query, depending upon all the conditions and all these things. And my batch size is 100. Then what will happen? 20 times this execute method will execute to complete the execution of that batch so that all the records are covered, right? So say I have if I don't mention, like, there is a default batch size, there is a concept of default batch size, like I can mention or I cannot mention the size of a batch. If I don't mention anything, it will take 200 as a static value as batch size. That means 200 records will get executed, will be processed in every execution. So that means one batch class can have three methods. One is start, one is execute, one is finish. Now, start and finish, these two methods will execute only once. This will only execute once, but this execute method, it will process all these records in batches, right? In smaller chunks. The records will be chunked and that will be executed. For that, we have to, like, how many records we can it will execute, that depends upon the number of that batch size, and how many times this execute will execute, that is total number of records returned from start divided by the batch size. So if there are 2000 records and my batch size is 200, then 10 times this execute method will execute. Get cleared about this idea that execute method will take a smaller chunk of record, whatever the batch size mentioned as, and it will take those chunks one after another and execute that. If the size of the batch is 1000, then from start method, if there are more than 1000 records, it will take only the first 1000 records and execute the logic on top of it, and then it will take the next 1000 records, then it will take the next 1000 records, and it will continue until and unless all the records are processed, whatever is returned from the start. Whatever I have told till now, is that clear to everybody?
Yes, sir. I
Yes,
have
sir.
a question. Like, you told me that the start method basically used for the query. So we are not using query in the execute method. It is
Not we can write query, but that will not be considered as a scope of that batch. That I am coming, like, what will happen if there
and
is a different query. Yeah.
and finish, like, I didn't need to finish method. Right? It is mandatory for the write the finish method.
Yes, you have to put the signature of the finish method at least
Okay.
within the body of the finish method. You can keep that blank
Yeah.
if you don't need that.
Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Now,
and sir, this like batch size, it is like up to 100, because if I'm mentioning my batch size as 100, I can have odd number of records. Let's say 523. So for the first 5 times, it will work upon 100 records each. Then it will work on only 23 records, like up to because we can.
absolutely right. Yes,
Yes, okay, okay.
it is up to. So I am just sharing this trailhead. You have to complete that in this week.
Yeah.
And next week we would not have the class, but after puja, when we will come back, this thing should be completed. Let me share it here for now. I will share this in batch as well. So the thing is that first you go through what is start method, what is execute method, and what is finish method, which I have shared with you. Okay, just go through this first, and Let me know if you have any question. Take 5 minutes to read it out and let me know if you
Okay.
have any question. Conceptually, don't go for this query locator and batchable context, all these things that I will explain. Just give me 1 minute. I'm just coming back. Have you gone through this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Clear till now?
Yeah, and so one thing, like at the start method, is it like initial, like creating an instance or like a memory allocation for your batch class to run on?
There is no specific memory allocation. Batch class, when we execute the batch class, it is instantiated there, and the memory will be assigned or allocated, or actually to load that in memory. The execution method will do that automatically.
Okay.
So now let's come back to the syntax of the batch class. This is batch. It should be public, or we can make that global as well. No issue with that. Now, implements database.batchable. Tell me what is this?
So interface.
Yes, this is an interface, and this one is what it is doing actually. Can anyone tell me?
Yes, this batch, the class we have created is implementing this interface. So there is a code written in this interface, and we are using this.
In that interface, it is stating that there should be one start method, there should be one execute method, there should be one finish method.
Yes.
Okay, but there is no definition of these methods. We are
Yes, yes.
defining when we are defining this batch class. Because of this one, like as we have to utilize this, I haven't uh I haven't gone through this batch class previously. Okay, now look at this database.query locator, iterable object, iterable s object. Anyway, what is s object? S object is parent of any object, like any standard or custom object. Just give me 1 second. So this query locator, it would be returned from this start method. From the start method, it would return a query locator. What is query locator? Query locator is nothing but after executing a query, it will return something which is like, this is the total return type. It will execute a query and return something in iterable way. Iterable means that should be a list. That needs to be a list. Okay. And uh, the
So if
argument,
like in the execute, if we want to perform for each for making some performances, that is doable because of this query locator.
right,
Okay.
right. And your anyway, all these are actually taking batchable context. Batchable context is actually mentioning like which like this is a this is a method for batch, and batchable context will provide the context of that. That is fine. Let's not get into what is batchable context right now. Later you can just go to database class. There is a static what is batchable context, you can get it there. But important thing is this this iterable. Now how it works, say in start here I am writing some query on account. Okay, then it will return the records of account In that scenario, it would be a list of account here. You have to mention account here, and on top of that, you can just write your code.
So,
This
sir, we cannot like typecast it directly on that first line of the code without mentioning a subject. Can't I just directly say account?
we can do this. Say
Sir,
this is
but
your,
I tried that. I got an error. Uh, I
yeah.
tried that.
This is the start method. Here you are doing something. This is your query actually, and always there would be a return. It would return database dot get query locator. Get query locator is nothing but a getter setter. This is a kind of a variable where we are setting up this value, which will actually get executed, and it will return whatever values would be returned. That would be break into chunks. The whole record would be returned, but that would be broken into chunks depending on the size of the batch. As I have mentioned previously, the size of the batch, like say this query is returning uh, 2 lakh records and my batch size is 2000. So in every execution of this execute, it will take 2000 of records in this account list, that which is called scope, in this account list. And on top of this scope, I can just write my code. Whatever code I need to write, I have to keep in mind that in this scope there are 2000 records every time whenever I am executing the batch, or up to 2000. And that will actually, I can just iterate through this list. I can iterate through this list and write my logic there.
And sir, these batches or chunks will have their own governor limits, right?
Every execution would have their own
Own
governor
governor limit.
limits. Until and unless I am making something stateful. In batch class, there is a concept of stateful. I will explain that after puja, not today. So that execution, like whenever I am trying to execute something, uh, obviously for every execute method, there would be separate set of what to say, governor limit.
Stateful, as much I know, is used to call another batch class from the finish method.
Which one? Which one?
Stateful.
Stateful is maintaining the state of the batch. Like whenever I am executing this execute method, what will happen? It will forget everything whatever it has done in its last batch.
Yes.
Okay, last execution means last chunk of data set. When it has executed on the last chunk of data set, it will forget that in next execution. If I have to keep that in memory, then I have to use stateful.
Yes. And one more doubt I have,
Mhm.
like we can write two data types. One is database dot query locator, and another is iterable.
Mhm.
So in which situation we should write database dot query locator and when we should write iterable?
Iterable, I have not used any time. I have always used this query locator only.
Okay.
Okay, so we might be using that. Might be we can just discuss later. But most of the time, the thing is that when this query locator is there, it will actually give you the list uh, on which you should work. I
Iterable also does the same. That's why
Exactly, iterable means on which you can iterate.
yes.
So that should be a list.
Okay.
Now, what I was telling, so this is my basic structure of the batch. I cannot violate it. Okay. And to mention that this implements thing will work. If you look here, implements, this one. Database.stateful is another uh,
Inter
that is another what I would say, the interface, but right now that is not of our concern. Now the second thing is that how we can execute a batch class. So initially when we will write some batch class, we will update, we will execute that with these two lines, and we will do that from execute anonymous for the first time when we will do this. Later we will put that in a scheduler or something like that. Okay, but this is the line by which I can execute a batch class. Here you can see that instance of a batch class is created here. Okay, and id batch id is nothing but a id what the batch is, when batch is executing, it returns one id. It stores that data in somewhere, some internal class, and this is the id. And database dot execute batch is my command by which I execute a batch with this object of this batch class. This is the object of my batch class that I will pass within database.execute batch. Okay. Here is one optional argument, that is the size of the batch. We were talking about the size of the batch. This is the size of the batch. Okay. This size of the batch, how it works. If I mention this, it will take this size. If I don't mention it, it will take default 200. If I don't mention it, it will take default 200. Clear till now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, what should be the best practice? Like if I have two, let's say 230
You should
records,
you
and
should you should you should mention the size. That is
because
the
it will
best.
help to break in chunks. Because if I
Uh,
have 230 records,
Obviously, I until like if you put that or not, it will be broken into chunks. But you can control how many records you want to process at a single go. That you can do from that batch size. So you should be doing that. You
okay,
should be utilizing it.
okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I have something to show. Can I share my screen? Like I otherwise I'll not able to ask the doubt.
Yep.
Okay. It's visible, right? So, sir, it is visible, right?
Yep. It
Okay.
is visible.
So, in the finish method, actually, I can see that we have an example to send email. Okay, and in some situation, I have also tried that. Let me go to this. I have written a class, batch class on the custom object. Basically, this is the application custom object, and here I am trying what? I am trying that if this description is null, then that will update the description, a random description, and this creation date, if this is also null, then it will put some date on the same. So
Right.
now after reading this, I can do what? I can send some mail if I want in this finish method, right?
Right.
This is the right understanding, sir?
This is the right understanding, but that will not be done using system.debug.
No, I just
Yeah, you can
yeah.
send
So
send
I
the
have,
message.
yeah, I have also tried to write this mail sending option, but I'm confused that how can we send that mail in some specific duration? Like I can do that if I want to
It,
send that
it would
mail.
it would not be in specific duration. It would be when the batch class execution is completed, then
Okay.
only this mail will be sent. It is not like in a specific duration you can send it.
So I can send only one mail because the finish method will execute
Exactly.
only
Finish
once.
method executes only once.
Okay, we can't do. Okay, got it, sir. What I'm one
Just give me
thinking.
1 minute.
Okay, sir.
Guys, I have to. There is something emergency. Just give me 10 minutes. I'll be coming back. Hey guys, sorry. Um, Probably I have to complete this class little early today. So
Yeah.
let me quickly go through the remaining part for today. And I was just thinking if you can just write one batch class. So after that, there would be another part that would be coming, that is testing of batch class. Testing of batch class is nothing but creating the proper records. Okay, creating the proper records. It has created as batch class should be executing on multiple records. The thing is that we have to create multiple records as well in the system. So there can be two ways. One is with for loop, and the other way, the better way, is that creating one static resource with CSV file. Like we can create data from CSV in test class. We have to upload that CSV in static resource, and from there is a specific syntax by which we can create those records in test environment, like when we are executing that test. Not that would be created in real org. Like how we are creating these records in test, and like in this test methods, in the same way that would be created, and we can execute our batch class from that test, so that we can find out like whether or how that is working or not. Go through this best practice as well. What I was trying to say, previously we have created one uh, custom field label in account or contact, right? In any of our previous,
Yes, sir. Something that gold, silver, or account metal, something.
Yes.
right? So you can just write one batch class, that is before going to that, couple of things to remember. Look at this batch class. This is the for, and this is from the scope. This scope is account, the query was on account. Look at that. Whatever processing needs to be done is done within this for loop, the external for loop. Okay. But the update, whatever the update statement is, that is executed outside for loop. So as you can remember, the DML and SOQL, whatever we execute, that must not be within for loop. Remember, because there is governor limit. So in that is true for batch class as well. Like in your batch class, if the size of the batch class is 200 or 100, then also if I have something, some update I have written within for loop, that means it will actually, this would actually hit the governor limit, because within loop that DML is executing, right? So you cannot write update or insert or anything within the scope loop. You have to come outside of that. So for that, what you have to do, you have to prepare a list. You should be preparing a list what you have to update, and on top of that, you should be like once that scope loop is finished, once this scope loop is finished, after that you should execute your update or insert. Okay, so just create one field called updated now. That should be a date time field in your org for account or contact, wherever you have created that field, that level field. And if the level is gold, update that date time field and update those records. So whenever this batch class is executed, it should show you that the current that updated on date time should show the execution of the batch time, like whenever the batch was executed, for the records, for the accounts or contacts, whichever is having the gold level. Got the problem statement?
Yes.
Got the requirement, what you have to do?
Yes. Uh, I got the requirement, but I have a doubt. I want to share my
Yep,
screen
yep,
once.
yep.
Can I? Okay, thank you. So here I have created a batch class, and the problem here is I'm getting these two error, and I'm not understanding this.
You have put that schedulable as well. Why?
I have scheduled it first, then I have tried to change the public to global. Then this error came up, but before that there was no error.
So from the same class, you want to schedule that as well, right?
Yes.
You don't need to do that. For now, I haven't gone to scheduler. So once we will go to that, we will address this. So for now, don't go for scheduler. And second thing is that it is always a best practice to write the scheduler separately, not in same class.
Okay. Got it.
Once we will cover scheduling, we will come to this.
Okay. So one question, like
Second thing is that don't write direct insert or update. Always use database dot update or database dot insert.
one question is that we cannot change the access modifier after scheduling it.
There are other things as well. So I am not going to scheduling right now. That's why I'm telling you, when once we are covering scheduling, then I will tell you. There are other things as well.
Okay.
Don't go for scheduling right now.
Okay.
Remove that scheduling from your batch class and that would be fine. Also, you don't need to put that schedulable in, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, duplicate variable op list. Database dot update, that is the wrong syntax. That syntax is not right. For database dot update or database dot insert, first you have to put that like the return type of this, and that database dot result set that will return that. You have to assign that, and then you have to put that within the uh, within this bracket. So check the syntax. This is not the correct syntax till now, so that's why it
Okay.
is throwing this error.
Okay.
So guys, I am stopping this recording for today.